Part two to right is right and wrong is wrong. It's going to be roughly about 30 minutes. And while I do my invites for this one, I'm going to tell y'all the motivator. I was watching my sister, DR.G, and she was talking to a Moorish sister whose name wasn't up in the clip that was sent to me. And DR.G was upset because a Moorish sister, had posted a collage that said false prophets. And she seen a picture of Noble Drew Ali in there. And DR.G was explaining that she didn't think the girl made it, but that to have Noble Drew Ali listed with the false prophets was disrespectful, and they really don't understand. So now this takes me back to conversations that I had with Moors, and a lot of people think I'm anti-Moor, but I'm anti-dirty Moor. As I said many times before, I studied under Moors that I got an immense amount of respect for. I learned civics from Taj Tariq Bey. He's been teaching the same thing redundantly for the last 50 years. And Larry Hoover been fighting to get out of prison for the last 50 years. And our people been sitting on their hands, twiddling their thumbs, walking around on their motherfucking elbows, doing nothing. So I gotta speak up. Because Big Mama said right is right and wrong is wrong. And when I see DR.G come to defense of Noble Drew Ali, I didn't know who the other sister was, but she would have appreciated just the same because she understands the Moorish doctrine a little deeper than the average person. First of all, you have to understand that a prophet to me that changed my life can be to somebody else classified as a false prophet if they feel that person didn't change their life the way they changed mine. Perception is key. The things I learned from Noble Drew Ali gave me a set of specific instructions on how to reclaim our land and how to be civics. I think a lot of people took Moorish doctrine and they kept the dogma, but they didn't read the science part. The science part is more important. And if you don't understand the lingo of the land of the chiefs, then Noble Drew Ali is talking jargon to you, and you ain't gonna never figure out what he was saying until you get to a certain level of knowledge. When you get to that certain level of knowledge, then you can see that what he was doing. Now remember, Noble Drew Ali said, I gotta leave these people in power long enough for you to learn how to run a government. How long do it take for us to learn how to run a government? Do it take 20 years? Did it take 50? Now you got to remember our level of illiteracy coming into the 60s. Now remember, Noble Drew Ali came in the early 1900s, 1912, 13, 14, up to 1929. And in that era, our level of education, our intellects had not been developed from being barred from any form of education. We wasn't allowed to read, write, pass messages. We wasn't allowed to whistle because the whistles would carry signs in the whistles. That's why they killed Chief Littlehorn, Emmett Till. The whistle is powerful in our community when you get a master that's trained at an early age on how to use the whistle, because he can do shit to make you move. But we don't want to know about that part of our culture because they told us it was evil. when it's actually our strongest and most powerful defense system. So as long as you don't use your natural defense system, you can't never get free from an unnatural force. Remember that. This is why we had to go to our oral traditions. Taj told y'all, as he's assimilating the fact that the contract is up and reviewing civics, he got like 70 years of civics to review in order to see clearest the best path from a civics perspective on how to, because this shit over with. And that's why he say a lot of the stuff that we used to do, we not going to be doing that anymore. It's obsolete now. So when we talk about nationality, it was absolutely necessary in 1912, 13, 14, because that is the only way where we could be educated in how to navigate the contract. And some of the people that was teaching how to navigate the contract found out how to turn it into a money-making scheme. And just like right now, everybody blame Larry Hoover for 50 years of gangster disciple terror. They blame Noble Jew Ali for the false prophets that came in his name, calling themselves the reincarnations of Noble Jew Ali. But you would have knew if they was the reincarnated Noble Jew Ali, because that mean that the effect would have had to been 10 times more powerful than he was the time before. That means that he would have been here to overthrow this government, and that he would have been successful, because the only way he would have came back, by the way the literature set up, is if he's coming back to take these people out of power. And when you go back and study the movement, you find that it was a lot of guys that called themselves the reincarnation of Noble Jew Ali, but they never took these people out of power. So when I see the sisters reviewing the information, don't try to convince them motherfuckers that Noble Jew Ali was a prophet. Just tell them exactly what he said. Tell them, if you doubt that I'm a prophet, watch my prophecy, and leave it at that. Because he said that when we learned how to run the government, he was going to send somebody to take these motherfuckers out of power. He didn't say it directly. He gave inference when he said, I'm going to leave these people in power long enough for you to learn how to run a government. Right? Now, some of the lessons that we've learned over the years, if you watch the Nation of Islam, what did we learn? We learned how to set up an infrastructure with a paramilitary defense mechanism that can make us self-sufficient and independent of the system at large. That's a powerful step to learning to run a government. Also, business has to be at a certain level of understanding in government, because everything is bulk, right? And everything is done with, it's supposed to be done with the taking care of the people first. The first thing you're supposed to do with any wealth of any government, nation, country, whatever you want to call it, the first order of business is secure the people. Make sure that the people taken care of, and that way the people will take care of their system that takes care of them. This is what we call a righteous government. But when you have a government that's exploiting the people, and they actually a corporation masquerading as a government that requires you to be a straw man in order for them to abuse you in any capacity they see fit, that's not a righteous government. That is a artificial AI operating, masquerading as a government. It is a corporation that's set up in an interim basis until we learn how to run a government. I believe with the manpower that we have currently in our communities, that we can run the fuck out of a government more efficiently, more organically, and more friendly to the people of the government, where we no longer need this government. So if Noble Jew Ali's calculation, if his math, if his Moorish paradigm is correct, you're going to see this government fall in short order. It has to, because the civics told us if we become competent in law and that we understand the unum sanctum decrees, the papal bulls, and that we understand that what took place in Cuba with Noble Jew Ali and C. Kirkman Bey, then all we have to do is have the blood of the organic people of the land and the right to speak up and exercise that shit. That's what the civics teach. This is what Taj be telling you over and over, that this is a de facto corporation operating in what's that shit called? Salvage law, admiralty jurisdiction. All of the admiralty jurisdiction falls under Uniform Commercial Code. The the nationalities that we needed in 1913 was to make us not be under the legal fiction, the corporation, and to break us free from it. But somebody infiltrated, one of them dirty Moors infiltrated and tied you right back into the system behind Noble Jew Ali back. And a lot of us didn't see it, and a lot of us don't seriously study the civics, because that shit is a fucking headache. When you start translating all of this legalese shit and seeing what these people is really doing, it's a headache. So when I hear motherfuckers tell me Noble Drew Ali was a false prophet, I just scoff at them. Really? I bet these people won't be in power. And I bet that the work Noble Drew Ali did is equally as instrumental in overthrowing these motherfuckers as any motherfucker with boots on the ground today. And he ain't here. See, this is protracted struggle. Protracted struggle is that which is drawn out over a long period of time in order to effectuate the best result. And anybody that don't understand what Noble Drew Ali was talking about is easily contentious when you challenge it. They become contentious because the codes and the doctrine is going over their head. They seeing them, but they don't know what they mean, and they don't know how to translate them, because it's not meant for everybody to know everything. We on different levels in different lanes. If we all try to do the same part, then we will never get no fucking where. Everybody got to take a piece that they know how to solve. And then somebody got to come along and sew that shit together and make a whole tapestry from the multiple pieces across the land. That's how, when I be talking this shit, I be reading it, and it's the same as reading the tarot card, and it's the same as reading runes. But you have to train yourself to see it, and the work that's required to train yourself to see it, most of us are too busy with a day-to-day struggle to do that level of work to see what's taking place in front of us energetically, and we can only see the illusion that's painted to cover the energetic system used to suck us dry. But somewhere along the line, we gonna all wake up as a people, and we gonna stop telling people Paige Flowers, my girl, she could tell me whatever she want to tell me. She could come here and talk to y'all if she want to. Let me see if she got an invite. No. I can't see all of the comments because my comment ticker is not rolling as I go down them. somebody asked what we gonna do to get they being cleaned up down in real time. It's just a lot of that shit is being slanted in the news stories to make y'all think it's something other than what it is. She always good people, and she done went to war with the dirty Moors, so she know exactly what I'm talking about and the difference in the two.
What's
How you
going on?
doing?
Hey, Rod. What's happening, Rod? What's happening? Giving them that
I
knowledge.
just, yeah, I'm trying to get them. People have these opinions that's not gonna do nothing to benefit us as a people.
Right.
I don't. At this point, we don't want their opinion,
Right. Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
And when I see the matriarch speak up on something like DR.G and the priestess was on the channel about Noble Drew Ali being a false prophet, he can't be a false prophet because what he said is manifesting right now,
Right. Right.
right? So he can't be a false prophet. I'm not my problem is not with Moors. My problem with dirty Moors, and you got the direct experience to know exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Exactly. You know, like I tell people all the time, me and Rod may not agree on everything, right? Like I told y'all, technically I am a Moor. But you got the dirty Moors that tell me I'm not a Moor. Right? You got the dirty Moors that are grand sheiks that won't give me a goddamn nationality card because I won't be a yes man. You see what I'm saying? Or a yes woman. So the thing is that as brothers and sisters, if we've been wrong and if the contract has expired, then we just need to sit the fuck down and listen. You know,
Yeah,
other than falling for the paperwork trap and the contract trap and the like what I put in the comment section, you know, talk about the nationality card. Because when me and you was chopping it up, you said, you turn the nationality card around. Let me show you something. And it said that de jure citizen of the US,
of the United States. Yeah.
of the United States. So what the fuck is that? Ask the Moors, what the fuck is that? Why are we still printing
Right.
out these cards?
Facts. Well, then here go the thing. A few minutes ago, you probably heard me when I said somebody went behind Noble Drew Ali back and tied y'all back into the system.
Right.
Because the way that the Moorish Temple of Science was set up, it was not set up in the same format as the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Mm-hmm.
It did something different in the domain of the public law that allowed the person that was a card holder to have a what we call diplomatic status and a qualified immunity from any interactions with the corporation at large. Somebody went behind Noble Drew Ali back and tied the corporation into the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Mm-hmm.
I know Noble Drew Ali didn't do it only for one reason, because he was trying to get away from their system. So if he's trying to get away from his system and somebody ties us back to his system, it couldn't have been him.
Right.
Especially when he told us that the way that the system was set up is to use the terms Negro, Black, and Coloreds to steal your rights.
Mm-hmm.
This was to usurp your rights, right? So when he told me to get a good Moorish education, he didn't only tell me Moorish Science Temple information, right? Because my Moorish education took me all the way to Barcelona, Spain, and then into Africa, took me through the Ottoman Empire to the Sinai Peninsula and Mount Zion, right, where the Anunnaki came and left a mark. So if my Moorish science takes me back that far, my Moorish science said that the Bays had a different flag from the Elves. Where's the flag of the Bays? Mm-hmm. Right? And the description of it is a red, orange, and yellow flag with a crest in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Just the description in the history books. So if I know the description of it and this flag is not flying in any of the Moorish science temples, tells me that the Beys have been exiled from that temple in power, if not only in name.
Mm-hmm.
So you obey in the temple, but if the flag of the Beys is not flat, this is the law of the flag being applied to the jurisdiction of the Beys, as it is written in the origin of the Bey doctrine, which came from Beys and Days come from the Ottoman Empire as Moors.
Mm-hmm.
And under the Ottoman Empire, there is a protocol of rulership and rank. 10 days seats a Bey. 10 Beys organizes a Ali.
Mm-hmm.
And they have to do it by erudition and learning.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So when you go through your system of learning more science and you start studying C. Freeman Hill and Hakeem Bey and Taj, you start to see this if you're a diligent student. But if you wanted the dirty Moors, you're going to push the dogma shit.
Right.
Right? The dogma is the fake religion. Moors, Noble Ali didn't bring a religion.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody tell you he brought a religion is the ones who's turning him into a false prophet.
Correct.
Because they Noble Drew Ali that brought religion is not our Noble Drew Ali who brought liberation. And we need to make that clear in the Moorish community.
Right.
So when you hear me ranting and raving about the Moors being infiltrated, I'm showing you where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
When you do the due diligence, you'll see it. It's clear as day. Noble Drew Ali separated the organics of the land from the system of secret societies and a fraud government. Somebody went behind his back and realigned them with the system.
Mm-hmm.
And my complaint about dirty Moors is the ones who infiltrate.
Right. Right.
Right? They look like us, but they not us. They don't have our interest at heart. But the righteous Moors is the ones that's still been carrying on the good fight the whole fucking time.
Mm-hmm.
Still been getting treated like shit. Still being about outcast and downtrodden and trying to put this shit back together. And the harder they try, the more the dirty Moors is chopping their legs from under them by pushing the dogmatic pursuit straight out of the morals and dogma of Albert Pike, 32 degrees Scottish Rite Freemason,
Mm-hmm.
who was actually Adam Weishaupt, who was over here in exile because they was about to murder his ass in France, came over as a English agent, a French agent, I mean. Right? And when he got over here, he changed his name to George Washington because the real George Washington was a heavily melanated being that came from Barbados. And this one they saying is born in either Virginia or France.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go back to the Paris Accord, which became known as the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, then the Paris Accord was signed in Paris, France. It wasn't signed over here.
Mm-hmm.
How are we involved in the treaty over here when we ain't even over there?
It. Yep, we went there.
That's not us. That's somebody masquerading as us, or it's another deal going on behind our backs without our knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the people that Noble Drew Ali had to go sit with these dirty motherfuckers that if they ever figure out that he's an organic, they gonna cut his throat in the service right there. And he got out alive in New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
He took his life and packed his life up and went to Detroit.
Right.
And he was between Detroit and Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
This is the real deal. This is what's going on.
Yep.
Right? So now all of this shit come full circle now.
Yep. And we got to understand something too, that this time period right now is showing us who the fuck we dealing with. You know?
And
If
then
you
the more we
Go
The
ahead.
more you give them the recognizers, they see them. And you know what they do? Get fascinated by them.
Mm-hmm.
The same motherfucker that come to tear us down, people get fascinated by that shit because there's drama gonna come with it.
Right.
And we love gossip.
Right. Instead of doing the damn research. If somebody come to you, right, and they say, hey, you know, all the information is wrong, and I'm gonna tell you XYZ. Instead of getting angry, go and check that shit out. If you got a good Moorish education, you've been taught to go research the shit. We're not gonna argue. I'm not gonna say you's a dirty motherfucker or you an agent. I'm gonna go research it. And I'm gonna tell you, okay, brother, this is where we disagree at XYZ. You see what I'm saying? I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to misguide our people. This is where we disagree, right? And if we mature about it and we are for deliberation for our people flat out, then we're going to get on live and we're going to talk about it. But what I'm not going to do is have you call me a dirty Moor, you a dirty Moor. We're not going to do that. We're going to discuss what the fuck is up. But the problem is,
Unless they're dirty mo, they're gonna show their hand. They're
right,
gonna come across dirtily.
right, exactly.
You see, I got videos where I talked to Moors that came in hostile because they didn't understand my viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't understand that I was telling them that the nationality, we passed that now.
Mm-hmm.
We on to some intergalactic shit, and you still talking about a nation,
Right.
right?
Right.
Well, so if we passed it, I have to tell you we passed it in order to get to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's like me. Big Mama told me some shit the other day. I ain't like that shit. I ain't like it.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what I did? I listened to Big Mama.
Right.
Right? Because like she say, right is right and wrong is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
No respect of persons. If you a wrongdoer, you're going to suffer for your wrong. So the advice to the wise is try to find everything right to do and only do it because it's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that always keep you in the path of righteousness. And in the path of righteousness, everybody not supposed to like you.
Right.
You ain't supposed to like everybody else.
Correct.
You ain't always supposed to agree 100% with everybody you talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You got to have different views of information in order to put a puzzle together. You got to see the puzzle from a different angle, or else we gonna all be working on the same puzzle piece.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, hey, I need you to grab the corners. I'm gonna grab the centerpieces. I'm gonna grab all the white pieces. I'm gonna have them grab all, and then we put these together. Then we should be able to see how the puzzle go.
Mm-hmm. And
Right?
yeah, you absolutely right. And the thing is we can't say they don't know. The Dirty Moors don't know, because the Dirty Moor told me about the Indigenous Rights Act as well as the United Nations Indigenous Rights Act, so they know. They know. You have been one of the ones, probably the only one speaking on it in depth and going over it, dissecting it, act by act, you know, article by article. But they know about it. But they still tell our people, file this, go to the county, do this, do that. And I kept thinking too, and I said this before, I even considered the Moorish Science Temple of America. I said, well, if we're trying to get rid of the United States and overthrow them because they haven't honored a fucking treaty, don't somebody got to go to work for them to file this paperwork and give it back to us? Somebody got to go to work at the county. So we ain't gonna never get rid of them because somebody got to keep going to fucking work and stamping the paperwork. And then you mean to tell me I got to give them notes? I got to give you 20, 30, 40 notes
IOUs.
to get something certified or to get some shit enhanced copy. That's what they call it. Enhanced authenticated copy. Somebody got to go to work at the county. So we ain't gonna never get rid of them.
The truth of the matter is, that's supposed to be at the Moorish consulate separate from the government. But whoever tied us back into the government by making us citizens of the United States as Moorish national card holders. That's who did the dirt. I don't know who did that part because I don't know the history of the clerk hierarchy or succession, right? But I do know that when the Moorish Temple of Science was set up by Noble Drew Ali, you were supposed to file with them there at the temple under the Grand Sheikh's clerks. Your clerks were supposed to take your paperwork and all turn them to the Grand Temple, the big temple, where you are logged in the Moor. So now, if you have a dispute, according to our tradition, the Grand Sheikh of your temple is your attorney and your tribal representative. This is the way that it was working or was going to work had they not been infiltrated. So now they come to you, they need to see you, but they can't talk to you and you can't talk to them unless they have your Grand Sheikh present. So if you come into contact with them in the street and they detain you, they can release you to the custody of the Grand Sheikh on demand without prejudice, right? Because that's the way that the original nationality card was set up. But the dirty Moors in the day had a habit of committing crimes, and when the police come, they pull out their nationality cards and flash them in their face. The police knew they couldn't do nothing because everybody who had a nationality card was registered at the Moorish consulate. Right? So somebody on the inside of the Moorish Science Temple have to tie the Moorish Science Temple back to the government. And it's got to be a clerk because that's the one who has to make the contractual agreement to sell out the people. He the one have to surrender the filings on behalf of the Moorish consulate. So it had to be a clerk that was a sellout. And he did it behind Noble Drew Ali back because that's not the system. He wasn't setting up a system for us to be part of the system. He was setting up a tribal structure that operates from universal law that supersedes and has authority over the system. Once he would have had a sufficient number of us organics registered under the original Moorish Temple of Science, then he could have served an eviction notice for the interim government and exiled them from the land. That's what made them have to kill him, because he would have been a success. And it was Muftis that turned him over to the police.
His own Mufti staff had to.
Because they couldn't get the police back then knew they couldn't touch Noble Drew Ali unless somebody on the inside pushed him out. He had the baddest motherfuckers in our community the other day hanging out with him. That was his staff. He didn't have Rudy Poots. What made you think, and how do you think Elijah knew how to set up the FOI? It's the same blueprint that Garvey used and that Noble Drew Ali used. But it's based on the conjure of voodoo in our community. So it's going to always surface when we see it. And it's always ties back to how to reclaim our rightful status as the ones who are the caretakers of the land. Right? So now we know where to look for the problem. If you want to research the problem, there's many Moors in there that know the lineage of the clerks. And you can tell by the filings which clerk did the sellout. It's not hard to find for a Moor that's on the inside. But an outsider not going to never get that information. The Grand Sheiks a lot of the Grand Sheiks might be aware of which of the clerks it was.
Mm.
But they can't say nothing unless they get murdered.
Mm. Wow.
So, because that was the secret oath, to murder the princes and the kings of the land. That's the secret oath, the blood oath.
Mm.
They catch us telling each other who we is, murder that motherfucker.
Mm.
You know.
Wow.
I went over the oath on Young Elder's show. If y'all want to catch it, but we actually pulled up the oath itself.
Wow. Young Elder still got to roll out the lecture on the flag, you say, right?
I think he having difficulty locating it.
Okay. Wow.
Right, because Malachi wanted him. Malachi did a lecture on the Nubian flag
Mm-hmm.
and the Washita flags. He did a lecture on it, and when he gave me the knock, it said, "Tell Young Elder to put the video so we can understand the law of the flag." That's basically to teach us our jurisdiction and how we make allegiances under the flag, the law of the flag. We really use totem poles on this land. The law of the flag came from Europe. And so now we have to know the law of the flag because they imposed it on our land.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Man, I need to look at that. I hope he located. I hope he
I think
located.
it was it might have even been what was called a closed meeting at the time it was given,
Mm-hmm.
because in certain meetings you give people the information that they can't get in the public domain,
Right.
without causing a uproar,
Mm-hmm.
right? The thing about me is I can see what's in the secret by what's being exposed. In other words, I can do what they call juxtaposition of exoteric to esoteric. By me knowing what's put out in the public domain, I learned how to read what is kept secret, that is called sacred,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I'm adamant we ain't all Moors, because it wasn't no Moors before 1492,
Mm-hmm.
right? Even in Europe, they wasn't calling them Moors. They was calling them Etruscans in Al-Maghribi, meaning those from Al-Maghrib.
Mm-hmm.
Then they was calling the Ottomans Turks, right? So we talking Byzantine kings classified as Turks, and some of them were called Black Turks, or what's the word? It's a word they call them, but it means Black Turk. They say it's because the he wore a black furry hat that they called him that, but it wasn't from the hat,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when we looking at the word, because this word becomes a point of contention because it's called a catch term. Any word that start with an M and got an R in it has begun to be translated as more. Like the Egyptian word mir, which means a craft, a ship, is now being translated as more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? Just because they looking the word Meroe in the ancient city of Meroe over in Ethiopia, and people are using that to say we was Moors.
Mm-hmm.
The word is fucking Meroe. It's not more.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The word is Ottoman. It's not more. It's Etruscan. It's not more. It's Al-Maghrib. It's not more. It's Arabi. It's not more. It's Moabite. That's not more.
Right.
Right? But when you talking about what we call the uniting of Africa and Asia. That they can't connect unless you come over here.
Mm-hmm.
They can't connect. When I say they can't connect, what I mean by that is the only key to translate the secrets of Asia and Africa is in over here in Amur Inca,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the Amur is not Amur. The word means something different. It doesn't have the same etymological trace.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same in energetical weight according to the laws of alchemy. Right? So it's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
The people are different. But a catch term, you will use a catch term to incorporate many other terms, and you do this in linguistics to confuse the mind of the people that you're trying to conquer.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look in the paperwork, every one of the ones that came to steal a birthright got a Jacobin in their family.
Mm.
I know who the Jacobins is because Dr. Bean wrote about us, the Black Jacobins, or the Black Jews.
Mm. Mm.
And I know that the Old Testament was written after the New Testament as a backstory written after the fact. That means they was covering something up.
Mm.
So if they covering something up, it becomes my responsibility, if it affects my people, to try to figure out what they covering up.
Correct.
So that I can expose it to the public.
Correct. Correct.
And coming to find out, the Bible is a combination, it's a contract that you can't get under until you solve the riddle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once you solve the riddle, it's the blueprint to civics,
Mm-hmm.
legalese.
Mm.
And once you do that and you figure that out and you see how they use the language in translation, you ever heard the term lost in translation?
Yes.
Right. So when you realize what they mean by that, because you now got the key to the translation of the languages into the symbols,
Mm-hmm.
now you know what they hide.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you start asking, okay, so we studied forensic profiling for about 5 straight years. In forensic profiling, you look for a pattern and then you look for a personality or character type that follows this pattern most consistently.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
Right? So I had asked some psychiatrists or psychologists that was doing a lecture at the prison one time, and anybody ever thought it'd be a good idea to do a psychological profile on the God of the Bible? They almost fainted.
Mm-hmm.
They said it had never crossed nobody that they know of mind that they can, as far as they know. It's never even been a point of, I was the first one brought up the question as far as they knew.
Mm. Mm-mm-mm.
And so I went back to my cell and I got my forensic profiling blueprints and I went to work.
What you find?
This is one of the saddest motherfuckers that you would ever want to see. He's an early bedwetter.
Yeah. Yes.
he got mommy and daddy issues. He is self-centered, self-absorbed, feel that he's more important than everybody else,
Mm-hmm.
overinflated ego, can't never do the shit he say he gonna do,
Mm-hmm.
but he always sending you to somebody else's God to accomplish his task. That means he's not as powerful as he think he is, overinflated ego.
Mm-hmm.
Narcissistic personality type with a tinge of psychosociopathic tendencies. He's a homicidal maniac that fears women and has a small penis.
Period.
Based on the principles of psychological profiling, that's the description of the biblical God,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? Key flaws in his character is seen when he say, "You can't worship no God but me. I am a jealous God." What the
Right.
fuck he saying? Just me, only me. You gonna hurt my feelings if you worship somebody else,
Right.
right? That's a sissy tantrum if I ever seen one.
Mm-hmm.
With 3 snaps in a circle. At least that's what the men on books say.
Yeah. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and and so if he acts in that behavior, he's also got a split personality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because in the New Testament, he don't know if he's a man or a woman.
Mm-hmm.
And he don't know if he's a warrior or a priestess.
Mm-hmm.
Because the contradiction in the words read betrays the fact that there's the dual personality or either 2 different people at play in these words.
Mm-hmm.
The character alignment is broken in the fact that one wants to kill everybody and take everybody to war, Matthew 10:34, and the other one want to give up their only begotten child to save the world, John 3:16, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the personality change when they say they come into the Garden of Gethsemane to get you, and Peter he tell all his soldiers sell off your garments, buy up swords and knives. All of a sudden, when they get to the garden, he said, "No, don't hurt nobody."
Mm.
Something not right. These 2 different people.
Mm-hmm.
It's clearly 2 different people.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is kind of scary, and the other one don't give a fuck.
Right. Right. And
You know,
the part that always tripped me the fuck out is the book of Job, right? When Satan came to him and said, "Man, if this really your boy, take all this shit." Well,
God set Job up.
right. Set him up.
Satan ain't just look. Satan ain't just drive up and say, "Yo, God, I want to holler at Job. Pull your protection from his bitch ass. Let me see if that nigga got hands."
Right.
No, it didn't work like that.
It was a setup. Like, first of all, technically, Satan ain't listening to you either. That's why the nigga down
Look,
here.
look what it say. It say, "And the sons of God came to prostrate before him, and also Satan came amongst them. And God asked Satan, Where comest thou? And Satan say, From roaming to and fro, back and forth, up and down in the earth. And God said, Well, since you've been doing all that shit, you ain't thought about my servant Job? He said, Have you considered my servant Job? And then Satan was like, Well, I did think about busting that nigga upside his head, but I thought you might come down and rush to his defense. Right? So God was like, Well, I ain't really worried about it. Job can handle his own. He's a strong motherfucker. He could take it. And the devil's like, Nah, for real, God, Job can't take this shit. That nigga gonna be calling you all kind of bitch ass niggas before it's over with, right? God was like, Nah, Job gonna stand firm because Job is true blue, solid. The devil like, Nah, Job gonna buckle under the pressure. All I gotta do is a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and he gonna be cussing you out, calling you everything but a child of God by the end of the day. Right? So God said, Well, go have at him. And the devil said, I have at him if you take that protection off of him. So God said, I take the protection off of him, but it ain't gonna matter because Job a bad motherfucker. He can hold his own. So then the devil went to work on Job as a job.
Yep. 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 There it is.
Look, I said, Mama told me, son, don't make deals with the devil. But the truth be told, God ain't no better. Look how he played Job when he set him up. If that was a nigga on the block, we would have wet him up. Now, don't duck when the truth is finally thrown your way and you calling me a sinner for the words that I say. You should stay open-minded while you test the facts. Another artist told you we was under attack. What? You ain't heard of the white man's world? We still worried about our precious little boys and girls. For sure, the world is on the end of it. Well, I forgot what the rest of it is. But
You was flowing though, Rod. Yeah.
that's a song called End Times. That was verse 3. Because I was sitting there thinking, now, if God would have did that in the hood, hey, if God would have did that in the hood and we found out about it, that he done set Job up,
Yeah.
we would have rolled out on God, punk ass. He'd have got AK-47 on the corner.
Right.
For real.
Right.
We give a fuck about him being God. If he'd have did that to Job in the hood, we'd have lit his ass up. He'd have been God would have been running down the street with his ass on fire. That's some foul shit.
It is. It is. It is.
What do that say for the character of this biblical God?
Right. Weak-minded. Led astray. Weak-minded. Easily manipulated.
Look, that's some narcissistic shit right there. You know this motherfucker ain't gonna buckle, but you gonna put him under the gun anyway.
Right.
To the worst motherfucker you could find. Why he ain't get one of his brothers, one of the sons of God, to go test Job? Why he not let the devil come test Job?
Right.
His arch enemy.
Right.
The enemy of all enemies.
Enemy of
make
all
that
enemies.
shit make sense.
Right.
He gonna do Job worse than everybody put together.
Yep.
I asked my mom, I said, Mama, why God do Job like that? She said, God didn't do that, baby. The devil did. I said, yeah, but God made it happen.
Right. And sat there and didn't do shit about it.
Didn't do shit about it.
You know? And it's
To the end, in the end, he came to him. He's like, Job, boy, man, I knew you was a stand-up cat. But God damn, man, if I'd have tapped out if they did that shit to me they did to you, that shit they did to you, I'd have tapped out, dog. But you a bad motherfucker. I got to give you your motherfucking propers right now because you handled that shit. You didn't buckle. You didn't bend. You didn't fold. These motherfuckers that gave you hives and pox around the ass till you couldn't see. You didn't know if your mother, you done lost all your family, your friends, everybody done left you hanging. And then you got these motherfuckers constantly coming in here telling you to curse me out. And you still just sit there and look at them motherfuckers and say, my God is the baddest motherfucker ever born.
Job should have shot him right then and there. Should never let him finish. You said too much. Should have shot him. Shot him right on the spot.
That sounds just like one of these kind artist ass niggas.
Right.
Hey, good brother. Hey, good sister. Let me holler at you for a minute.
Right.
Man, why you calling me good brother? What's your agenda? What's your angle, nigga?
Right.
You trying to soften me up? I ain't never even spoke to your motherfucking ass. Why you trying to soften me up? What you trying to get past?
Right.
Telling on yourself where you get here.
Like what the fuck you want? Something. Yep. And people got to realize all this is dogma. All of it's dogma. All the texts are dogma. If you, like what you said, if you really study forensic profiling, you would quickly come to the conclusion that all these gods are narcissistic. All of them are narcissistic.
So therefore, they could not possibly have the interest of the people in their heart.
Correct. It's the opposite.
That don't fit. That don't fit with a narcissist.
Right. It's the opposite. What God truly is, what I try to tell our people, is oneness. It's all of us together. So even the most foul of us, we can't escape each other. We all are one, whether we like it or not. So whether we agree with each other or not, I got to be here and deal with you anyway, because I'm going to have to deal with you one lifetime or another. We're going to have to deal with each other.
I found that the easiest way was to tell it to myself like this. Everybody got a right to believe whatever they want to believe.
Yeah.
Even if they're wrong. If they want to hold on to a lie, they got a right to do that. Everybody got a right to feel however they want to feel,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everybody got a right to disagree with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I got a right to not give a fuck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I got a right to disagree with anything that a motherfucker trying to tell me,
Mm-hmm.
right? And they got a right to not try to force their shit on me so that they can get it bust upside the head.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to go launch an attack unless I've been attacked. I'm going to defend myself,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
So when I start studying what I'm telling myself, I start putting it into the way of the peaceful warrior scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's a harder fight for me sometimes not to punch a motherfucker in the face when I want to
Yes. Yes.
than it is to actually punch them in the face,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the internal conflict I gotta go through not to punch a motherfucker in the face. I can't fight them harder than that fight. They can't give me a harder fight than that.
Yeah.
Win, lose, or draw, they can't give me a harder fight than the fight that I have not punching them in the face,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like all us see our struggle, and when we see other people trying to help us to overcome the struggle, why do we attack them?
Right. Doesn't
Right?
make sense.
Agent Smith syndrome. That means that the person that's doing the attacking is not as evolved as they think they is in relation to the understanding of our overall struggle.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they was, they would listen for the ability to join forces to overcome the obstacle than to fight with the ones who's most sincere about destroying this bullshit and getting my sisters they shit back.
Right.
Right? Now, some of us come in hostile
Mm-hmm.
because that's the nature of the species.
Right.
So just because you come in hostile don't mean there's no room in order to level out the playing field and see what's going on in front of us
Mm-hmm.
and face a common enemy.
Right.
Right? We call that coming in off a left bump.
Right.
Right? So if they come in hostile, my job now is to don't react, read it.
Mm-hmm.
So when mama told me what she told me, it made me step back and say, what the fuck was I missing in this process while I was entertaining the low vibrational shit? Because, you know, I'm with the shits,
Right.
right?
Anytime.
So, but when Big Mama told me what she told me, right? So now I have to step back and see what is the message that she's giving me that me being indulging in the shits keeping me from seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Then I start to see something, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the same way you come in is the same way you gotta go out,
Yeah.
right? And you have to pass a similar scenery if you go in the same way out, but it's a different direction.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you read the signs, it's going to tell you about to see three kings walking on the land.
Mm-hmm.
But if you only get stuck on what the signs say and not the destination is telling you, you don't like the sign because it's it's on the top of the bridge instead on the side of the road.
Right.
It's okay. You don't have to like where the sign posted at. Just remember, the sign got the directions to get you to your destination.
Right.
That's all. You don't have to fall in love with the sign. You don't have to go rent a hotel and have a, you know, twist with the sign and none of that.
Right.
Just look at that motherfucker, get the message, and then catch your exit.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Sometimes you stay on the road too long, you end up in somebody's lane, and then you get crushed.
Right.
You see?
Correct.
So you need to know where your exit at.
Correct. Exactly.
And the only way to know where your exit at is to always stay in your lane and read the signs as they coming by.
Mm-hmm. Yep. 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 That's the thing, y'all, is that like no matter what, like you listen to Rod, it was one live I think I heard you say, I'm trying to get everybody free, you know? And you weren't just talking about us here on the land. You were talking about globally too, with that one
Yeah,
document. This how we all gonna take our shit back. This not just here on this land. We gonna get our shit back here, but I'm trying to tell y'all this is how we all take this shit back. You see what I'm saying? Cause say for instance, you ask some more, right? Well, can you help my sister out in Russia? Can you help my brother out in Southeast Asia? Some of them don't know. Some of them don't even speak the language. Some of them don't understand that kind of legalese because it doesn't apply to them or they haven't been exposed to that, right? But there are some documents, right? Like you got the United Nations Declaration of Indigenous Rights Act, right? Where they acknowledge Act 26. Y'all can seize all this shit up no matter what. So what the fuck you gotta file paperwork for? You need to realize who you are and take all this shit back from us. Just like what you said, bye. It's them saying, bye, motherfuckers, we out. Here it
yeah.
is.
It's the same. See, they didn't have no money to leave the hooker on the table, so all they left was a note. After they got done fucking us for 500 years, that's their goodbye note.
Come on, Rod. Come on, man.
That's, is that what they did to us or not?
Yes.
Treated us like a $5 hoe, fucked
Yes.
us, and then couldn't afford to pay us and left the note on the table.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Well, with that note, under that note was a key to the vault.
Mm-hmm.
So let them go, acknowledge the note, state your claim.
Right.
And then I'm going to grab this key and I'm going to pop this lock and I'm going to pay every motherfucker who got something coming.
Yep.
Because that's what I believe in. Give a motherfucker what they owe. You
Yep.
ain't got to give him no extra shit. But if he earned it, that's what he got coming.
Right. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
And don't think for a minute that they didn't count up all of the money they stole from us individually over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
Everything.
going to show you how to prove it.
Mm.
How do you get Social Security? It has to go by work hours.
Yeah.
What you get paid an hour is a percentage of what they pay for you.
Mm.
What you getting paid in your hourly wages is the same as your people leaving you some money to get tokens in prison.
Mm. Wow.
They got the real money. Problem is they can't keep it. All they can do is borrow against it. And they can only borrow against it until we figure out that we can tell them, hey, motherfucker, stop borrowing against my goddamn money and get out of my house.
Right.
But if we don't know to tell them that, one of us have to figure it out. Only one of us. And once the one figure it out, he got to go on the campaign to educate the rest of them as to the discovery, the remedy, and the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand what took place, it put you in the position to speak up about the injustice, the wrong that's being done. Because Big Mama say right is right and wrong is wrong. So if you're on the path to righteousness, you're going to speak up about all of the wrong shit. You're going to tell them who the wrongdoer is.
Mm-hmm.
You ain't going to cover up for the motherfuckers. You just going to put their ass out there.
Yep.
You're going to recognize that with that, a lot of motherfuckers not going to like you for it. They not going to appreciate your delivery because you might not say it, or you might add a couple motherfuckers and bitch-made motherfuckers periodically peppered through the whole goddamn lecture.
Mm-hmm.
But in the end of the day, political correctness is a goddamn fool when the politics ain't correct.
Right.
So when you understand what you face with, you blatantly say motherfucker a few times to make sure that you politically incorrect when you deliver the message. That's your way of expressing that the politics that they've been playing by is politricks. They incorrect politics. It don't work for us.
Right.
And if they not working for us, the only thing I can do is say us can stop these motherfuckers in their tracks. All y'all got to do is become aware of what I already did for us as a collective, and then we join forces and we push that motherfucking information to the surface.
Mm-hmm.
Once our people become aware, their awareness is going to trigger a reaction in nature. That's by the laws of nature.
Yep.
100 monkey effect.
Mm.
Right? And once we get the critical mass, they can't stop that shit. We gonna get it. It's gonna come.
Yep.
We gonna figure it out.
Oh yeah. We ain't gonna have no choice. We ain't gonna have no choice. Yeah. It's here now. And like I say, people, you know, just read the documents. Just read the shit. What Rod was telling us too is that what's slowing us down is the W-2 and the W-4. People continuing to go to work. People continuing to comply with this system and voluntarily getting robbed because the information is out there. If we all stick together and we like, nah, fuck this shit, we walking off the job, we can get our shit back a lot more easier. And like you say, we are going to have to struggle. This is what this time period was about. We're going to struggle regardless, whether we stay in this system or we
Can't get
don't.
around it.
You
Can't get around it.
You can't get. You're not going to get around us struggling for a little while. We're not going to be able to get around it. Now, if we stay with them, we're going to continue to keep struggling. But if we go our own way and kick them the fuck out of here, we might struggle for a little minute, but we'll eventually get all our shit back. You know.
Yep. Now, as soon as our systems go back online, your first wave of your estate comes in off the cashing in of your Social Security account, which is actually your international indemnity account, right? So this is going to be the first wave of payments, and this is going to be huge per individual because it's not based on what you get from Social Security. It's based on what you was being traded on the market for. So it's the same as cashing in a stock.
Yep.
And becoming a principal holder of the stock. And this is why we say learn how to run a family bank, because there's going to have to be some kind of understanding and training of how to handle wealth. Because remember, we haven't had wealth in fucking a couple hundred years. We've been in warlock. Yep. You can't have wealth when you're locked in war.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yep. So we've been poor. And so every time, like the lottery is our what you call when they take your pulse.
Yep.
What happened when most of us win the lottery? We broke in a year, no matter how big the jackpot.
Broke in a year. Yep.
No matter how big the jackpot, the average one of us that win the lottery is broke in a year. One guy in New York won 40 million, and a year later he was 40 million in debt. That means he spent $80 million in 1 year.
How?
We have to see, this is what Big Meat's job on the land was. He was to train the young princes on how to not let the money escape you like that, and how to live having the access to the wealth. We had to be retrained. Nature trained Big Meat as a teacher in the community of the young men. So he performed that function, and he got a lot of them. Like, we don't talk about the dudes that called themselves BMF that was getting degrees in the name of Big Meat. We only talk about the ones that caught the drug case with them. We don't talk about the ones that went to go get their music career, like Jeezy, that he told to stay away from the drugs, and he insulated them by keeping them out of the inner circle because he knew he was going to be about something to his local community, and that Jeezy had a good heart and he was going to be able to do more change if he didn't get caught up in their bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Right? When you see somebody with a gift, this is the law of the land. You don't allow them to squander their gift pursuant to the passions of the flesh. If they are willing to listen to you, even if you going wrong, you have to tell them what's right.
Mm-hmm.
Because some of us have to go the wrong way in order to be strong enough to keep the rest of us on the path to right.
Yep. Yep. It's designed that way in this system, how
Mm-hmm.
they got us. So you got to do
Yeah.
something, you know? You got to do something, you know? And it's crazy you say that because I told our people recently, because I've been known to teach cryptocurrency and wealth. I told our people recently, I said, listen here, I don't give a fuck how many classes I sell y'all or what I have to teach you all. We will never be able to compete with BlackRock and Vanguard with what we
Yeah,
have
because
now. So we need
me
to,
and Tupac got this bitch on lock.
yeah. I say, man, we'll never
You
be
see?
able to compete with them with our little money. We could keep making money, sure, and it might be more than what we had, but these niggas are buying everything up. So the only thing that we really can do to get some kind of remedy is to walk away from this shit and fuck this capitalistic bullshit where we have to keep stepping on each other and our children have to be the sacrifice and have the short end of the stick. That shit is stupid. And enough got to be enough at some point. Some of us don't want to work no more. A lot of us don't want to fucking work no more. I don't give a fuck how much money we got. You don't want we shouldn't be working the way we've been working and being pimped the way
Right,
we've been
because
pimped.
see, the system we under now is a slave system. The Emancipation Proclamation gave us what they call meritorious manumission on the land.
Yeah.
That's trustee status in the slave system, where the slaves that was held in private, which was actually POW camps,
Mm-hmm.
it was the reverse of a privatized prison system where they kept POWs. When we really look at what it was, they changed. They took Big Mama House hostage and called it the Big House. The Long House where we used to use for living quarters. We had one for the men and one for the women.
Mm-hmm.
Right at Big Mama House, they turned them into plantation houses, and they turned the plantations into prisons. To the Big Mama House into a plantation, a prison plantation, and start calling it the Big House. Because these settlements that they call plantations, those were family farms that belonged to the family that they said was the slave. They wasn't slaves, they was prisoners of war. They were erased from the census and reclassified under the Dawes Act.
Mm-hmm.
This is what happened to the people of the land.
Mm-hmm.
So the system, when he say Emancipation Proclamation, all he did was said that the property transferred. Because the emancipation is the transferring of the property from the private to the public domain. The result of that was to issue a meritorious manumission status to the ones who was 3/5 compromise, right? Because they lost their identity and they lost their connection to the land. Once you become 5/5 realized, those connections automatically activate. You know who you are.
Mm-hmm.
You know who your people are.
Mm-hmm.
The hard part is getting them, your people, to remember who they are sufficiently enough for us to join forces across ideologies.
Mm-hmm.
They use the ideologies to divide us. Our culture was the sharing of ideology.
Right.
Whole tribes would emerge anew with members from various tribes of understanding the diversities in each one of their tribes, and they bring them together to form a whole new set of traditions and customs. That's forming a whole new tribe or clan, right? Extended family matrix, right? This goes back to what Noble Drew Ali was doing. When you understand international law and that none of us are barristers, right? And the only ones over here that can negotiate treaty, because when a Moorish citizen, a person that's under the Moorish Temple of Science, before the nationality cards got tied back into the government under Noble Drew Ali, you have to have somebody that represents you because they issued a warrant, a war rant. They declare war on you.
Yep.
Once they done that, your negotiator is the chief of the clan, who must be skilled in legalese in order to argue law with barristers. That's why you don't have no say on what go on in the court. They want you to have a barrister speak on your behalf. That's supposed to be your chief, because what they doing in there is negotiating the terms of a contract. They not negotiating your innocence or guilt like they tell the public. They negotiating whether you violated the economic standing of somebody else by your actions. All law is commercial.
Yep.
So it's a commercial transaction taking place. Noble Drew Ali was positioning it where the grand sheiks of all of the lodges would represent the local area for the organic people of the land. So this is why I say, when they say Noble Drew Ali, false prophet, I turn my head and I go the other way. Right, because they don't understand. Okay, so if he gave y'all the instructions, but somebody infiltrated, we can't be so prideful that we don't go back and trace for the infiltrator, because they can find them in the lodge. All of the ones we call dirty Moors, the Moors know who they are because they got the complaints in the lodges from the body.
Yep. I got
Right, so when you have those step up that don't know no better, then they taking you back to the dogma portion.
They got hit a card right here. Okay, somebody asked about the Mac D. Now I like Sharif Nine Feathers, right? He seems like an honorable guy, but the facts remain on the card. It says the individual identified and pictured on the reverse is a natural-born American national of the de jure United States of America and not a U.S. citizen. That's what it says. That's the first sentence on the back of this card. And the majority of the cards out there have that sentence flat out on the back of the card. So it's been infiltration. How are you a de jure citizen of the United States?
Because it's, in order to be a citizen, first of all, to the United States, which is a corporation, you have to be a straw man.
Right.
The flesh and blood person can't be a citizen of a corporation because the corporation is a legally dead entity. Right? So this is why they say that their company is in the black. Right? And that means that it's operating as a functionally, legally dead entity. When it's in the red, this motherfucker's coming back to life. It's starting to bottom out. It's not functioning properly as a legally dead entity.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the red now, right? So they tell you to watch the market, but it's more than one.
Right.
We only focus on one,
Mm-hmm.
right? But they got an international stock market that's trading our birth certificates as bonds in a slave trading industry on paper,
Yeah.
guaranteeing that you're going to work for your 65 years until you old enough to be broke down, and then they're going to send you out to pasture,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you make it to the 65 years, you then generated billions of dollars off of your labor output that you are totally unaware of.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Wow, man. Y'all, we got to do our research, y'all. We gotta come together, man. We gotta come together. We have to come together.
See, I really like to, because like I got so many books around here packed up, but I really like to be like where I can have my books out and I can just start pulling. Because while I'm talking, I know what book I need to show the reference, but right now they all packed up. So
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. Well, listen, Rod, man, it's been good. I got to get on up out of here. I got to go to bed, brothers and sisters. I appreciate you as always getting on this live, and I know other people have been saying, man, get me on here. So I'm gonna go ahead and yield the floor. But I appreciate you as always, brother. As always. Much love.
yeah, I appreciate you too.
All right.
I'm gonna take one of the brothers in here. I got two sisters in here. How you doing?
Hold on, can you give me a second? I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Hang up. I'm trying to figure this shit out. Can you see me? Maybe not. It's dark right now.
Well, I see your silhouette.
Rachel, hold on. I'm here though. Okay, so
I
I
can
have a
hear you.
question. Can you hear me
Uh-huh.
though? I have a
I can hear you.
question. I have a father. I have a father who is a preacher, and his father before him was a preacher. His father before him was a preacher. I'm just like, I'm just sitting here like, what the fuck? Because you can't go against that because that's law. You know what I mean?
Can't go against what?
So what do you do? What do you do with that?
You do what's right, regardless of who it affects.
Right, right. So that means you fucking just even if you don't. I don't know. What I'm trying to say is I didn't agree with it. Hey, Rachel. I'm sorry. I let me cut this light on. I don't want y'all to think I'm a fictionist person or nothing. Hold on, let me go cut the light on. But yeah, like I had fathers before me that came that were, I guess, preachers or whatever. But you know what I mean. So what do you
Well,
do
the
with
truth
that?
of the matter is, we not totally against
You
those
see me now?
preachers.
Hey, y'all.
Yeah, we see you. Look, the church, we used to have to hide to tell our story in the
Mm-hmm.
church.
Yo, the church was my safe haven growing up. I didn't mind the church. For me,
Look, when we,
it's not for everybody, but for me, I did. I loved it.
yeah, I wasn't too crazy about it, but
No, I
the
loved it
church,
because of the last time I'd seen it. I was a child. I was sliding down slides and shit. It was easy for me, you know.
yeah, we went to church so much. I went to
I'm
church in
29. I don't
20,
know how old you are. I'm 29, so it's probably different
yeah.
eras.
But the history of the church in our community, once we began to be able to have church service, we was able to actually discuss issues in the community.
Right, right, right.
The preachers of today is nothing like the ones before 1960.
And you know what the crazy thing is my dad be trying to like give me clues, but I'm like, nigga, if you're gonna tell me what I need to know, just tell me. Don't be fucking trying to fucking put
A,
it up
a
in there.
lot of them, a lot of them used to get murdered for telling it.
I am your child, though. I feel like that's different.
Right, but he got to paint a picture for you to be able to see it yourself. That way,
Right.
he got plausible denial,
Right. Oh
and
yeah.
also it's a teaching method.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, if you want
Yeah.
to bring the wisdom out of you, he give you clues
Hmm.
in order to open your mind and expand your perception. He
Right.
might want you to see past the church, but he probably can't say it from the position he in, and he can probably do more work from where he at. Those are the
But for
preachers,
me, he is the church.
right? But those the preachers that's like that, the ones that feed the community and whatnot, that give you act like, for instance, the things that Jeremiah Wright was saying during the Obama campaign. He was right. Somebody have to keep that information out in our forefront of our minds because we'll forget,
Right.
right?
But these are
We
the same
know,
people that also wanted us to forget at the same time.
well, our people don't want us to forget.
Because all small folk ain't
The
kinfolk,
enemy,
right?
the enemy is the one that want us to forget
Mhm.
because they need to steal our birthright. They
Right.
can't steal our birthright if we remember our position.
Right.
We use now. I'm not saying that because I don't like know your father as a preacher,
Hmm.
but like
He
I know
ain't
my
he ain't own no church or nothing. He's just like it ain't none of that. But yeah.
but I could tell you this from like the preacher my mother had,
Right.
Pastor Crump,
Right.
is a genuinely
I heard
good
that name
man.
before. Actually, I'm only 29. I
Yeah,
heard that name before though.
well, he's pretty big up here by us.
I'm from Chicago, so I yeah.
Hmm. Well, Pastor Crump is one of those preachers who's just like a modern preacher, but he performs like an ancient shaman,
Miracles,
right?
aka
No,
miracles, right? Yeah.
his no, not the miracles. It's the things that he do in the community,
Right. Okay.
right?
Mhm.
So he'll go and see each one of the elders of the church wherever they at least once a week,
Mhm.
and he gonna bring them food, make sure they got food, they need anything. He gonna make sure it get done.
Right. Community
Every
work.
one of the elders,
Right.
it's a couple hundred of them, and he go see all of them.
Mhm.
They in the hospital, he gonna come at least once a week. He gonna come strolling through that door,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
And he's gonna do things to, feed the congregation more than just food.
Right.
See, he be trying to tell people what's really going on, but the people can only take so much of it. Then they start breaking down,
Right.
right? So then you make a guy that don't know how to reach him have to water down what he teach.
Okay. Okay.
But I'm not all the way down on the church either. I just don't believe in them motherfuckers that's out there using the so-called word of God to hustle the people.
It's so sad because I grew up off my grandmother watching Pastor T.D. Jakes. And it's sad that shit. Damn, she died
Mm-hmm.
believing in you. I don't. That shit don't rub me the right way. But it is what it is. So, you know.
Yeah. Well, for me personally, I don't believe in no religion
I don't either. But I
because
can't
I know
tell I
what it
can't tell
is.
my daddy that, but I don't either.
I know what it is from a political position.
Right. My daddy actually went to I just want to make sure y'all know I'm a real person. My daddy actually went to a theological school and graduated because
Mm.
his mama's last dying breath was for him to actually go to a fucking Christian school to graduate.
And you say he never opened up a church, or he don't have a church now?
So my grandmother's last dying breath was for my daddy to actually go and graduate from theological school And he never, no, he just preaches whenever he wants to at the church he grew up in. Yeah.
But he don't got his own congregation.
No.
So when he got a message,
Oh no,
he
my
want to
daddy
get
ain't got
out.
his own congregation because he's still drinking shit. So you
But
know,
when
he's
he got
still.
a message, he get up and tell it though, right?
Yeah, he do. Yeah, he do.
Okay.
So when he tell me, like, even if I don't tell him what I got going on, he'll call me and be like, I know you ain't called me, but if you finna go do this, don't do that, cause it ain't, that's important though. I mean,
Yeah.
you ain't got
We
to be
all
all
got.
the way right. You ain't got to be all the way right, but
Mm-hmm.
because
Well,
that's
we got a lot of religious people in our families. A lot of those holy rolling, Bible thumping, Quran slinging, Torah dropping motherfuckers. We got a lot of them.
I know,
All
but I'm
different.
just
Listen,
I know, and I ain't real
all different
religious, but
denominations.
I feel like if somebody call me and say don't go here, and they say don't go here, I'm not gonna do it because they told me not to do it because that's my elders and they told me not to do it, so I ain't gonna do it. You know, I want to go to this club this night or do this night, and they say nah, don't do it, and that's I feel like you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's my dad. He's a pastor, but he's just like kind of like on call or something. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what my dad is. He's on call when he needs at the church that he grew up in, that I grew up in too.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's where we're at.
Did you sing in the choir?
I tried to, but I was like, this ain't me. I tried to sing in the choir. He wanted me to. I was like, no, this ain't me. I can't do this. I don't. That's although the shit. I ain't gonna lie. When I do go to church, that's the only thing that touches me. It ain't the preacher. It ain't nothing. It's shit. If I do cry a little bit, it's the choir.
Yeah. The message and the music.
Mm, yeah, that 369 is real heavy in the choirs. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
The
ain't the
message.
preacher. The preacher never, and it makes me feel so bad sometimes. I feel like I'm like, damn.
Oh, they had some preachers that
Yeah,
spit that fire, like Vernon Johns.
yeah. I'm feeling so
Yeah.
horrible because I'll be like, damn. Um,
Look, at
feel
the end of the
nothing.
day, it boiled down to this. I'm gonna sum it up for you right quick, so we can go ahead to the next person. But the bottom line is this: as an adult now, it's your responsibility to do what you know is right, regardless of what your parents did before you,
Right,
because they didn't have access to the level of information that you have in
right,
this time.
right. Yeah.
Upgrade the family traditions to benefit the family the most, so that the things that separated the family can fade away.
Okay,
That's our
so my
job
problem
in this era.
is my mother and father never got along because they're not actually family together. But I be trying to get my mother and father to get along, and I can't never do it. And I be trying my best,
Well,
because
maybe
to
that's not
me,
your
I be
job.
like, we got other shit to deal with. Like y'all should be able to get along because we got other shit that's worse than this to deal with. You know what I mean? And they're just
Hmm.
like, nah.
They might not be, listen, they might not be old enough yet to get along.
Shit, they almost 50.
They might not be old enough yet to get along. But sooner or later in your lifetime,
Mhm.
they gonna come to family functions and they gonna be able to be cordial with each other.
Right. So you feel like
You
so my question.
don't try to force it.
Right.
If you try to force it, you build the friction that keeps the barrier in place.
Right, but as
But
their child should as their child together, it's hard not to do though.
well, you can facilitate it,
Right.
but don't try to force it.
Right. Okay. And it's so
Right.
crazy. It's so crazy because I have the same issue with my child's father. And I'm
That's what you call a generational curse.
cursed.
If you find out why that problem exists,
And I
you break
haven't
the curse off.
but I'm working
Yeah,
on it.
yeah. Somebody's perception.
Right.
If somebody's
And
perception
I
is
I
looking
will
at
say
it.
this to people that are listening, even though my father and my mama have the same issues, and I see that with my own child, my first child's father. I see it with my own first child's father. I will give it to my first child's father. He is trying his best to fix it, but I ain't gonna lie, because I'm an honest person. It's, sometimes you like, oh, so you just act like this didn't happen. But he's trying to fix it though, so I give him that. He's
Okay.
trying his best to fix it. So what I will
Just
say is,
remember, anytime repair is involved, it's a two-way street. If one person take one step, you should take two.
so he's trying to fix it, even though he's trying to act like ain't nothing happened. But that's the past, right? So the past is the
Yeah.
past. Let it go.
You learn from it, you don't live in it.
Ooh, okay. So he's trying to fix it. So shit, so basically what you telling me is if he's trying to fix it, and even though he don't want to talk about the past, at least he's trying to fix what's going on forward
Well, he's probably just trying to have a functional relationship for the kid.
for the kid. Yeah. Okay. I'm
Right?
okay with that.
It's easier for y'all to go to your child's birthday party together than for to have two birthday parties.
hmm this is very important because that's also a generational curse too. So yeah, I'm glad you told me that. Okay. That's
Yeah.
good. I'm glad you told me that.
All right. I want to talk to one of the brothers before I end this live, so I'm gonna let you get out now,
Okay.
and I'm gonna talk to you later. All
All
right.
right.
What's going on, my brother?
What's going on, God? It's been a long time, man.
Well, I was just chillaxing. I figure I'd get some Big Mama work done while I was doing nothing.
Right, right. Man, I just want to say something, man. People, when people get so-called conscious and woke, they get all impatient and they forget that they was once ignorant as a motherfucker at one time as well. You didn't just come up in this motherfucker and knew everything. You understand what I'm saying, God?
Hey, you hit a bullseye on the target with that one. Ooh.
I'm just saying, man, people need to stop with that ego shit and stop acting like they ain't got no goddamn patience, because somebody had patience with your ass one day. And that sister is a seeker. She's seeking. She already said she don't want to fuck with goddamn religion, but she got this loyalty and tie to her father, and she don't know how to get around that right now. She had enough gumption to come on here and even ask that goddamn question. So y'all ought to
That's a
chill out
fact.
in them goddamn comments with that bullshit.
Hey, look, I'ma tell it like this. When they come to me, I gotta give them a sincere ear to listen to without judgment, or else I'm not doing my part. If I'm doing my part and I listen to them, I might be able to sense something that the rest of the people are not picking up on. That
Exactly.
she was extremely she was anxious. She had a lot of anxious energy.
That's right.
She's on here talking to over 200 people that's drawing on her energy that's making her more anxious.
Right.
And she is a chatterbox when she's nervous.
Exactly.
So I had to try to interrupt her periodically and calm her down by giving her information to shift her from the emotional um, agitation to a more intellectual perception so that she can see how to resolve the issue that's plaguing their family.
Exactly.
She was telling me a generational curse issue, right? But she was giving me the background of it first.
Right.
The average listener does not hearing what I'm hearing. So they want to know, why am I letting her run on like that, and why am I, not interrupting her more? It's because I got to get enough information to know how to best reach her in order to aid her in solving the problem that she faced with.
Exactly. And
I might not come up. I might not come up with the answer for her this
no, you did.
time.
You did. You got on the right track though, God, and you did it exactly the way it needed to be done. She came on here and she got the information she needed. Now it's up to her to follow up on that information. But it's just like, it should kind of.
How many of our people have never seen that before?
Right. Right.
So even though it was a one-on-one session with her, the fact that the onlooker has probably never seen it before, it'll make them impatient.
Right. And it comes
right. But the explanation that comes to help them understand what I'm looking at makes them understand the conversation better. And now if they go back and listen to it, they have a different set of ears than they did the first time, and they're not annoyed.
That's what's up. That's right. It's just like somebody was saying, there's a message in everything. There's a message in the music. You need to listen. Stop being so damn impatient. Patience is a virtue.
When I take the callers in on here, it's almost like Big Mama pushed my finger where she wanted to go.
Damn right, because I told her, push my finger. I ain't rapped with my nigga in a long time. So, call it that guy, man. I sure did. Shit. So, look,
yeah,
bro.
so,
go ahead.
So, I feel like if Big Mama need me to talk to somebody, everybody don't have the same communication skill set. Everybody don't have the same word grasp and comprehension for communication. So Big Mama sent me, I have to be attentive enough to know what they saying word-wise, but also feel the information that's subtle behind the words.
Word. Real rap.
Right? Because she immediately gave me what you call 3 knocks on the preacher. My father, my grandfather, and my great-grandfather. So then in the legalese of the land, that's the law of the land, she's actually claiming the inheritance that's coming off her father's line. Right? But it looked like we having a basic conversation. She have to fix the anomaly on the family tree to unlock her inheritance. She is the family redeemer. And so when she's asking me and going through the information, I can hear the nervousness in her because she really is like intimidated to ask for the help to flip her in the right direction. So she's anxious.
Right.
She's excited.
Right.
The possibility of being able to help her whole family off of a little piece of information that she got in a 5-minute piece of a conversation. Right. And then the people that's the onlookers, now they can see what it looked like when I'm helping the person work through their family tree to find the anomaly that they have to fix.
Yes, sir.
Right. And then once I explain to her what the anomaly is, she can see it clearer now. Because at first she couldn't see the painting on the outside of the house because she was looking out the window from the inside.
Exactly.
So I had to go in the house, grab her by the hand, and bring her outside to see what the painting looked like.
Sounds like some A-Ball and MJG on the outside looking in. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, sir. When she go back and relook at this, she's going to get more than what she came for, Rod.
Mm-hmm.
Hear me?
Yep.
Yes, sir.
But see, that's the good thing about having these lives recorded when I do stuff like that. Because the way that the subconscious mind works, when the other people see it, they understand how it works. They don't know why they understand it, but it makes so much sense when they see it in real time. Yeah. And then afterwards, you come in for what you call the analysis, the assessment, what was going on with that situation. You vexed it as a grievance. My job is when my people got a grievance like that, I gotta answer it if it affects a large cross section of the community. I gotta answer the grievance. So when you give the grievance, I have to explain the process of enduring the conversation in order to get her on the path that she came to get on. And then when the explanation come after, it's like you seen the David Copperfield trick. You didn't know you saw it, but now we finna show you behind the scenes what it looked like. It really wasn't an illusion after all. You just blinked. You saw exactly what you saw. So now people can even start using it as a framework of self-analysis to help them find where the anomaly is in the family tree to unlock further and further family wealth. Prosperity is actually what it is. You unlocking. It's not like you unlocking a vault with money in it. You unlocking spiritual prosperity by cleaning up your family tree.
And that's what's important.
So Pedro and them gonna be some bad motherfuckers because they come make your yard look like you in an oasis. They know how to trim the shit out of tree.
That's what's up. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But check this out, Rod. You done said it plenty of times, bro, but I want you to kind of break it down again. It seemed like the question never gets fully answered, but like if you're not supposed to turn no paperwork into this de facto government, then if you already did it, what you supposed to do with it? Probably nothing. But you said to put it in the public domain. So what actually would be considered that would be effective?
The public domain is any place that over 1,000 people can see it. It can be time-stamped, dated for reference purposes and verification of the time and the date in which it was issued. So if you have a deadline on the contract closing, it's 72 hours after the expiration of the contract for somebody with the blood right to step up as the pretender to the throne. So the contract expired on the 4th. 48 hours later, I did my claim in the public domain to assert my superior jurisdiction and to exercise my blood rights to reclaim the land for myself and my people. Right? So I beat the 72-hour clock by 24 hours. At least.
You're talking about July 4th.
Mm-hmm. So once I done that, it caused a lot of commotion to take place in behind the scenes in these secret societies, because now the old guard is being taken down dirty motherfucker by dirty motherfucker at every level. So now we in the right is right, wrong is wrong part. Now we doing what's right only because it's right. We not doing what other people think we should do. We doing what's right. What's right is obviously the right thing to do. If you know somebody is being victimized, you speak up.
Right.
You vex that grievance in the public domain just because it's right.
Right.
So when I'm saying free Larry Hoover, free Angel Bay, free Malachi York, bring Assata Shakur home, I'm putting it in the public domain, vexing the grievance, which the collective people, because I'm operating off clan traditional law, and I'm not operating from westernized uniform commercial code and admiralty law. I'm operating from the organic law of the land that preceded the arrival of Christopher Columbus, and they operating from the law that came with the barristers under King George III. right? So we coming from two different jurisdictions in galactic law or universal law. My claim has superior jurisdiction because I got the blood, the right, and the knowledge and the know-how to exercise the blood and the rights.
Right. Right. Okay. Man. So let's say somebody already did that paperwork and got it, so that it's really futile, right?
Yep. So what you supposed to do when the fraud is discovered so you not held liable as party to a fraud is to abandon the contract.
Now, how you
This
abandon
is
it?
what the sisters started on the 4th when they started walking away from jobs, because that's the W-4s, W-2s, the 1099s, the contracts that's keeping the system in power. They walking away from it.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to build up in the coming weeks because the energy move, they got to build their confidence up enough to take that plunge, because that's a big life change. Right. Some of them didn't start on the 4th. Some of them started on the 5th. Some of them not going to start until August. But when enough of the women take their energy from the system, they turn the mitochondrial off from it. It dies. It can't live here without it.
This is a cosmic
And
thing.
they've been, right. And patriarchy has been using feminism to steal the mitochondrial right to rule. And now the women is understanding that it's not feminism that's going to give them the power of self that they seek, but it's matriarchy. And matriarchy is not predicated upon men or women. It's predicated upon the children. And the children are the future, is the philosophy. Right? And if you want a good future, you try to make the best children. You try to produce the best byproduct for a future to be built, because they the ones that's going to inherit. So they shouldn't have the same social issues that we have.
Right.
If we do our part, we got to clean this shit up. Then they can have a whole new series of issues that takes us even higher when they come into understanding how things work. Because now we can tell them the mechanics of creation.
See that.
We can give them the proper viewpoint by using any other techniques and showing them how all of these things cross-reference to give you the same information from a different angle, which broadens their entire view of life, which makes for better people when they grow up because they can think better.
Which is higher levels of intelligence and spiritual awareness.
Right.
So
Because you making the mind and the spirit is working together now, instead of the mind working independent of the spirit.
Exactly.
The spirit is vastly more intelligent than the mind.
Right.
Right. But the mind is so stubborn that it'll fight the spirit from coming in to take control. That's what we call purification of the ego.
I thought that was the brain doing that shit, not the mind.
The mind is the product of the brain. The universal mind is the product of the universal presence. The brain is just a facilitator. It's like capacitors in the back of a radio. Right? The sound come in from the radio station to the radio. But the radio not the sound.
Right.
But because you have a radio, you can hear the sound coming from the radio station.
Right. So would you say this LGBTQ plus shit, they really are enemies, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because
they whole goal, the whole agenda, it's called the gay agenda.
Uh-huh.
And it was a book that was written back in the 80s as a blueprint to normalize homosexual activity at all costs. It was put together, the blueprint was put together by retired World War II generals in the 60s. And then they put it in a book in the 80s as a how-to manual to spread the homosexual agenda.
Just another motherfucking faction, just another organization fighting us, against us, trying to hold us back and hold us down.
Right, because if one of our princes is sodomized and become aware of the problem, he got the blood, but he lost the right. He no longer have a right to claim the throne. So he can't do it. And this is the purpose of that agenda.
What some of our own so-called woke, I hate fucking using that word woke and conscious, but the ones who think they're getting it, they got it, are not seeing this shit, man. They're not seeing the events that are popping off right now. It's not about trying to act like or be so fucking intelligent in this conscious movement. It's about knowing what's going on and responding to this shit. You're sitting around, fucking around in social media trying to be seen, trying to be heard, but what are you actually doing for your soul and your spirit?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing about your rights that are of authenticity? What are you doing about that? So I appreciate you, Rod, man. I'm so glad I got to get on here with you again. But what you said about when once you got to unauthenticate that paperwork shit that you already done, and don't be fucking with that goddamn DNA. Somebody in the comments asked about some DNA. What those places?
Listen, I just said this 1,000 times, and I'm gonna say it again. The fine print on the DNA test say for entertainment purposes only. Anything that's done for entertainment purposes only can be altered to fit the entertainment narrative. If they want to entertain you by telling you you came on a ship from Africa, all they have to do is say you African in your DNA test.
Boom. Come on,
but
now.
It's just entertainment. It is not necessarily true. It's just to push an agenda. I don't trust none of them.
And why would you? Who are the motherfuckers run by?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know where you sending your shit. Do you really know where you're sending your shit?
Anybody that don't believe that shit made up need to listen to the brother that started one of the databases. He was a professor, and he was in on writing Almanac Encyclopedia Africanus. Henry Louis Gates.
Right.
And he was giving the lecture about Oprah Winfrey, saying she was Zulu. And they hadn't finished her test yet. So he told his partner say, well, what do you want us to do? He said, hell, make her Zulu.
Wow. Wow.
Entertainment purposes only.
See?
That means that it's not really applicable in law, because it can be altered legally to fit a narrative, and therefore that alteration make it unreliable in court as evidence.
There you go. There you go. And see, that proves my point on when I speak on, sometime when I make these posts, and I speak on educating your mind, on getting yourself on higher levels of information. Because if I would have knew some of this shit, I would have not done a lot of that bullshit that I done, man. Wasting my time, money, and energy. Come on, man. So you gotta never.
Every time I start going down certain paths, I get like these alarm bells go off telling me something is here that's wrong. Now, the reason the alarm bells is going off is not to stop me from doing it, but to make me to investigate to find out what's wrong.
Right, spidey senses.
You're right. So That's what happened when I started going over the Moorish information from Noble Drew Ali and understanding from the little bit of information he put out in some old Moorish newspapers that I got a hold of when I was in the joint. I was able to listen to Taj explain the mechanisms of civics to show me what the anomaly was, right? Once I seen what the anomaly was, and I know the ancient code of kings, this was the key piece of information that the average person doesn't have access to. The ancient code of kings is really, you ain't even supposed to see it. It's only for the royal families. The problem with me is I've read it over so many lifetimes that I can remember it. Right? It's a part of who I am. So when it came to me as pretender to the throne, and then I look it up, it's telling me the steps to follow. And the more I look it up and how to exercise your blood rights and how to use your system to overthrow a foreign system. So you put these pieces together and then you speak up at the right time. I just so happen to be the one speak up at the right time. That don't mean I'm better than nobody. That sure in the fuck don't make me smarter. Because I know a whole bunch of motherfuckers that can spit information off top of the dome, make me look like I don't know shit.
Right.
I just know how to fix this particular problem, and I exercise my blood rights to do it. And now I'm just informing the clans of the same.
Which everybody need to be doing, and stop watching these lives, get serotonin boost, get to work. Because like I said, if I would have knew a lot of shit back then what I know now, I may be a little bit farther different along than I would like to be.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because, hey, man, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. You know,
Yeah.
And at the point where we are right now, man, we ain't got no damn time to be fucking around and wasting. What the fuck? Come on, man, this shit is serious. And if you don't see the sign, then you're not connected. And I'm not putting nobody down, but I'm just saying, man, you got to go into these meditation states and you got to start asking for what you want. Asking, you shall receive. You got spirit, guys. You got what you need right there with you. Am I right, Rob?
Yeah. Yep. But see, we've been taught by the system to ignore the influence of our spirit guides.
Right.
The system actively teaches that.
That's
by the structure of it. Yep. By the structure of it.
And that goddamn psychological medical system is one of our worst motherfucking enemies. You got niggas in lab coat telling you what you are and what you come from and all that shit. How they gonna tell you? How you gonna go to a doctor and think that he's looking at you as a melanated individual? He's put you in with his folk. So we got to get this shit on our own. It's time to wake the fuck up, man. So is there any truth to when you're trying to do like when you're getting property and you're trying to get some of your inheritance back by doing work on attaining property? I'm not saying the right thing to make it click. What the fuck is that shit called? Gee whiz, man. When you're claiming property, when you're trying to get property, because that's part of our inheritance, the land and the property. I can't remember what the fuck the name is, bro. What I'm talking about. Something claim. It's something like when squatters are trying to get into a home that's available, nobody's living in it, nobody's claiming it, but a squatter go in there and live in it and try to claim the property.
That's called a squatter's rights.
Uh-huh.
And the government does it when the government does it, it's called eminent domain.
Right, right. So is there any truth to that, being able to do that? Like you live in the house, you got a home, and you fucked around and got a mortgage. Well, it's supposed to be a way you're supposed to be able to get out of that mortgage and claim that property as yours, right?
Well, you better read your paperwork before you sign it at the mortgage, because the paperwork at the mortgage signing says that the property is paid in full at the signing.
Right.
None of us read that shit.
Right. Fine print.
Yeah.
Okay.
They know it though. This is the crazy part. They're not gonna never tell you because they double dipping. The government's supposed to pay the bill under the House Resolution 191 that became public law 191 for the bankruptcy and the settling of the estate. We weren't supposed to pay for anything. But they levied the lien and issued the fiat currency as the monopoly money, as IOUs, so that they can operate business on the land without actually using the wealth. They can use the wealth as a collateral. But can't nobody foreclose on it but us. So when they just reported Biden traded that oil from the reserve, right? That's a blatant act. That's a blatant act of treason. It's in the open. It's not a secret. The United States had a moratorium on selling domestic produced oil product because it's our shit. They can only borrow money against it. They can't sell it. And by him shipping it overseas, he just violated the last part of the treaty that they hadn't violated. They hadn't been trading in our gross national product. Now he's allegedly shipping it overseas, which is a blatant act of treason in violation of several treaty ordinances.
Is he gonna get it for that, Rod?
Man, look, Biden been gone. All these goddamn clone lookalikes that they got up there and these CGI of the actors. Right, most people can't even tell. The CGI is so obvious, right? And then all you got to do is pay attention. We were talking about forensic profiling. You will know that Jim Carrey be doing the buffoonery for Joe Biden, and they're using that animation technology to make him look like Biden on the computer screen.
Yeah, I think he did. Did you see the tweet he did where he said people are saying I'm doing it and he said I'm not doing it?
I seen him ask him and all he did was laughed and never answered.
So you know what that means when somebody do that shit. You know?
Yeah, his answer was something like, "Oh, that's ridiculous," but he was dying laughing like, "God damn, who the fuck said that? That's a good one there."
Right.
Yeah, but he never denied it. He just laughed at it and made light of it.
Right, and you know what that means. You know what I'm saying? That's just when somebody lie. If they lying,
right. Now when he getting everything right and he coherent, that's James Woods.
Look at that shit.
Right. They got the actors that play the part that they need played at the time. That's that white hat shit.
Hey, Rod, I'd be so glad when this shit over with, cuz I'd be so fucking glad when this shit over with, cuz I got two more questions and I'm gonna let you roll, man. So what if you do lose your property to foreclosure? Can you get that back?
You can. It depends on how long you wait to file to recover the property first and foremost. It's a time sensitive matter. If you fail to file in a timely manner, it becomes what you call using the court for revenge, buyer's regret.
Ain't that some shit?
Right, but if you file in a timely manner, it's cases in case law where people have won their property back when they found the fraud in their mortgage. Every mortgage is a fraud.
Right, right.
Right. And when the fraud is discovered, right, then the one who discovered the fraud is obligated to bring it to the forefront.
But like you said, the key point of that is it's time sensitive.
Yeah.
And so the only way you're gonna handle any kind of profit is when this shit get over.
Well,
with.
fraud ain't no statute of limitations on fraud.
Mm. Okay.
This is why when we ask about the treaties, right? Because my claim was that they never seen the treaty that they honored.
Mm-hmm.
That's part of my claim. And so I challenged them to produce any treaty that they ever honored.
Mm-hmm.
They never produced one.
There you go, right there in. Okay.
So if they never honored the treaty, they become in default.
Right.
Which cancels the contract, or the contract is resolved according to the counterclaim of the other party to the contract, all things being equal.
Dig it. Got it, man. Got it.
Right.
So did you go ahead.
Another part of my claim is that they concealed information that was critical to the people to understand their state and condition in relation to the contracts and the paperwork. Because of that, they can't sign a competent contract. If they can't sign a competent contract, it becomes dead in the water. The contract never existed because they withheld information, exculpatory evidence that could benefit the other party to the contract had they been aware, and you concealed it from them deliberately.
Right. Because otherwise they wouldn't have signed that shit.
Right. See, you misled them into believing that a driver's license was one thing when it was something entirely different.
Mm-hmm.
You had them believing that when they got the title to the car, that they owned the car, but the title to the car is just a bond securing the indemnity account that's tied to the vehicle used in commerce.
Bitch.
In other words, it's an insurance policy on a work vehicle that's worth more than you.
You borrowing that bitch.
Right. So because they was keeping all of these what you call critical factors concealed from the people that they was leading into adhesion contracts, right? Then that's a violation of the Fair Debt Collection Act, meaning that the contracts can't stand because they are predicated upon a fraud. When the fraud is discovered and exposed, then it's up to the people who's being held unknowingly to the fraud to abandon the fraud.
Mm-hmm.
You have to walk away from the contract in order to kill the contract. And they have been holding on to enough people to operate at a per diem capacity. From what I'm understanding from the latest intel, it's a wrap. In the next 7 days, we should see something relating to the court cases in some form or another. I'm thinking they're going to come out on some kind of hearing about the Hunter Biden's laptop.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of stuff is going to be brought to the forefront for the people that's going to blow their fucking wig back because they wasn't paying attention. And then they're going to look at me and you and was like, man, y'all tried to tell us this shit.
Well, shit. Hard head make a soft ass, bro.
Yeah. But the good thing about it is the manner that my mama instructed me to go is she said, you got to save as many people as you can. You can't throw people away you just can't throw people away like garbage.
Right. Just like the sister a little while ago.
Right. I told my mama, I said, I do whatever I can for anybody that's trying to do something for themselves.
That's it.
And anybody that don't want to do for themselves, they don't want my help.
Shit,
So
they
they're
don't
gonna have
want.
to either have to figure it out or suffer the consequences of failing.
Right, exactly.
Right?
Get the
Because
fuck out the
if
matrix.
yeah, if you don't want to try it, why would I do it for you?
Exactly. And that's that indoctrinated training, that nigga slave mentality. Master, can you help me? Can you help us?
Mm-hmm.
Bullshit. So look, Rod, okay. Do you have any kind of direction in which to go if there's no statute of limitations on fraud?
We already did it. We closed the contracts because of the fraud.
And we'll see results and by way of finance and property not too long here.
So the current economy is gonna crash.
Mm-hmm.
But our economy is going to emerge from that crash.
Mm-hmm.
Because from that crash is when we going to start being exposed to our assets.
Yeah.
Once we start being exposed to our assets, it's going to be a period of struggle. That's why I keep telling everybody, get ready and you can't escape it.
Right.
It's going to be a hard part before it start getting easy. But when it get easy, baby, it's easy.
Let the good times roll.
Let the good times motherfucking roll. Mardi Gras from coast to coast around this bitch.
You hear me? You hear me? Okay.
Yeah, Mardi Gras from coast to coast.
So check this out, Rod. You want to say a little bit on what happened with the green skies and the damn stones?
The green skies was a plasma emission from a split in the ozone layer.
Mm.
I don't know if I posted it yet, but I had the article to show what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
The red skies is the dust trail from Nibiru.
Mm-hmm.
When Nibiru was close enough for them to shuttle little babies the fuck away from here,
mm-hmm.
and get our new kids back to his house, right? And then the whole skies is gonna be pretty much red because the dust cloud is gonna be flooding the upper atmosphere. Some places it's gonna come across as purple because the ozone is so thick in some places that the red and the blue from the ozone make it look purple, but it's still the same dust cloud that's causing the effect.
All right. Right. So what about them stones, man?
Which ones?
When they blew them stones, the Georgia stones up.
Yeah. If you look at the explosion, right, from the timestamp to the type of explosion it was, there's no fire at the explosion.
Right. Exactly.
Which indicates that it had to be some form of an energy weapon.
Exactly. That's the shit I was thinking, man. That's what I was thinking. Some type of energy weapon.
Right. Anything that we know of that explodes without a fire, I mean, that explodes, that level of an explosion produces a fire. The only thing that can blow something to that level is an energy weapon without a fire. There's no fire there.
Right. That was some
it's just noise.
That was
right.
Some Star Trek ray gun shit.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't a ray gun because you'd have seen the plasma beam hit it. Okay. It's an energy weapon.
Okay.
A particle accelerator weapon.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Big difference.
So when the particle weapon send the vibration, it instantly heats the stone up, and the stone expands faster than it's the heat is causing the expansion at a rapid rate inside of the stone. And it's faster than the stone can adjust, which causes an explosion.
Boom. Then they went on ahead and knocked them down with the bulldozer.
Yep. So the only ones that got that weapon right there, that kind of technology, is the U.S. military and the Galactic Council.
So nobody else, China, Russia, nobody else got that technology? Look at that shit.
Russia got some plasma weapons, but you will see the light from them when they shoot them.
Mm-hmm. And perfect.
Right, and they haven't got them all the way perfected yet.
And perfected that shit.
But America got the technology under Operation Paperclip.
Motherfucking shit. Bitches. Wow. Okay, one last question, y'all. God, one last question. And this kind of personal, but I don't give a fuck. I want to get a knockback on this shit. I'm kind of concerned about my children, especially my firstborn, who's a daughter. They're not getting it, and they're acting like they don't want it, Rod. And especially my daughter.
Once you make it, all you can do is make it available. You can give them the game. You can't force them to take it.
That's what's up. It's rough and it's hard, Rod. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
That shit rough and hard.
I already know.
You're trying to get that message across, especially a female, because she, you know, there's so much that she can get hurt from, so much she can be taken from, and she needs to be in her place in this war.
But when they get this shock and awe of what's been going on that they've been overlooking, that's when they gonna say, "Dad, what the fuck going on? We need your guidance now." They don't need you now, like they gonna need you on the flip.
Mm.
Because when the flip happened, they not mentally ready to accept the paradigm, but it's gonna be in their face. They gonna need a buffer.
Mm.
They gonna need somebody that they can grunt to and be like, "What the fuck is going on with this world?"
See, well, I'm glad you said that, Rod, 'cause shit, I was thinking like it's time to sever ties because I got to move the fuck on. I got shit to do, places to go, people to meet, and things to do.
Well, you got to remember, part of the program of being where we at this time under these current conditions is to figure out new ways to rebuild the family bond so that the youth can learn from the elders and guide that passion and strength that they got. The system taught them not to listen to us. But on the flip side, when you've been telling them all along, they going to know where to go.
Exactly. Okay.
They going to know where to go. All you got is basic mathematics, and ain't hard to figure out. When you the only one telling them what's really going on and they don't see it, when it's forced in their face, now they have to run to you and be like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Because you know I've been preaching since they was little scrubs, man. I done talked to them true blue in the face. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm like up here with it. And I'm like, hey, look, we finna have to make some real changes around this motherfucker. Because you know you need to look at the condition and the state of the planet right now, and it's time for quit fucking around. Get your ass up out of the matrix and stop fucking with these third dimensional people who ain't serving your purpose.
Well, sometimes it look like that to me. Sometimes it look like that to me and you, but they learning the lesson to prepare them for a condition that they don't see coming.
Okay, cool. All right.
You gotta give them enough room to grow.
I feel you.
Right. And when they come for the guidance, you give them the information they need. That make them trust you more, and then that make you trust them more when you can see that they know how to live their life. It's a trade-off on the family tree. You worried about these my babies still. You still in daddy mode, but they're adults now.
Right.
So as an adult, you gotta give them a chance to create the life that they trying to create. If they get stuck, hey, come over here and tell me where you stuck at.
Right. Okay.
Right. And sometimes they think it's a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they don't know what the fuck it is, and it's something physical.
Right.
They need to change the tire on the car, and the motherfucker will stop bumping. It's a knot on the tire. They probably don't know that, but it's the same. They know where to come when they need higher guidance.
I will that they do. And that's not easy being transparent, but I needed that information, cuz.
Yeah. Well, you gotta remember this. That don't mean you stop walking your path.
Right.
Because the further you get along your path, when they see you get to a certain distance, they gonna come running to catch up.
Real rap. Real rap.
That's what children do when they see their parents growing. Mm-hmm. The further you get along, they come running to catch up.
Mm-hmm. Chief, you know. God damn it. Man, I appreciate you, Rod.
All the time.
Appreciate you, cuz, man. Been a minute.
All right, I'm gonna look at my questions and see if what I got in there interesting.
Okay.
But I'm pretty tired.
Yeah.
I'm ready to lay it down, so I'm gonna look in there and see if I can answer a couple of them.
Go ahead and cut me out so I won't miss nothing. Cause when I cut myself out, I wind up going goddamn back 15 minutes.
All right.
Peace.
All right.
Unity.
Were there tribes and clans living in the mountains of Detroit? The area around Detroit is named after Fort Detroit, where the French had a settlement. And the indigenous people, the local leader was Chief Pontiac. And on the other side of Michigan, at one point it was, I think, Tecumseh was one of the leaders of the people. But they were organic people all through here. The Saginaw is still populated by the Saginaw Indians. That's who still live in Saginaw. In Flint, you have an amalgamation of people that came to work for the auto companies, but you had indigenous people up here all the time, all the way up. Soaring Eagle Casinos to Marquette. Marquette used to be a castle. So Michigan was always heavily populated with the organic people on the land. Michigan is a very instrumental site in our history, right? We got partial cities under Lake Michigan, great cities in the bottom of Lake Erie that was once above water that ended up, for whatever reason, being sunk. So yeah, then you had the Ohio Indians. They were mostly the Browns that was from the Ohio Valley. It was a huge, huge fucking tribe. That's why you meet so many different people last name Brown. That was a ginormous family clan. And some of the colors, green, white, were affiliates for different reasons. Some was named that for the color of the textures of their blankets. They might have made a blanket that was primarily white for whatever reason, for ceremonial purpose. And then they would carry the name White as a last name. But then you have those that came from Europe with the last name White that indicated something different, right? So when we're looking at the tribes, most of your mascots for sporting teams is named after tribes, no matter what the name of it is. Like the Piston is named Pistons after the piston that goes in the engine as an auto worker city. But the piston is also a metaphor for horsepower. And this is why some of the Detroit Pistons paraphernalia have a horse head in the logo, because the piston, though it represents the part of an engine, And some of the old piston paraphernalia had a literal piston. The piston is a metaphor for horsepower. And if you got good pistons, you're going to generate good horsepower. So we always had tribes up here. The Seminoles is an admixture of all of the tribes across the land who went to fight the Spanish Armada at one point, the French and the English in what we call the southeastern United States region, Florida, the Carolinas, Georgia, going into Arkansas and Alabama. So they also were settling from those areas, and they called them Seminoles because it was an admixture of tribes as far away as the Polynesian Islands and Alaska, going west and south, than tribes coming as far away in South America as southern Venezuela or Brazil. So we had tribes coming from everywhere, and because we was an admixture of so many different tribes fighting to keep these people from occupying the territory, we picked up the name Seminole, which means mixed breed or half breed. In the Spanish were the ones who called us the Seminoles. Let me see. Cherokee is not an original name. It's a name that was used as what you call a concealer. The tribal name, if you look up the etymology, is going to start with an I and not a CH. That's how you know that when they changed it, they didn't follow Grimm's Law of Grammar in the transliteration. They just gave you a whole different name. That's because the Cherokee was the ones used to conceal the Dawes Road Indians. It was one of the tribal distinctions used that was created for Native Americans, not the organics of the land. So this is what they was doing. They was replacing names to confuse the bloodlines. The Golden Dragon clans of Japan, that's the family of Anu that got trapped on Earth. It's not a it's not a lot really to say about them, but almost any of the emperors who call themselves an emperor of Japan will trace their lineage back to what they call the golden dragon in the sky. And that golden dragon is the Asian symbol for Anu, the golden father. And the Anu is the tribe that currently hold the highest concentration of Anu's blood on Earth, and they in Japan. So I hope that answered your question. That's exactly why you have Cleveland Browns. The Shoshone are today condensed down to the last name of Shaw. The Shaw Indians came to fight in the Seminole Wars, just like all the rest of us, and they was originally a little more Washita mound builders from the Mississippi Delta region going into Louisiana, and they were one of the major tribes on the land over here. The culture is, they got people from the culture that write about the culture. All you have to do is start reading up on it, and you will find out more than you could possibly imagine. Kilpatrick was the designation of the ones who came from Scotia, the sister of Scotta. They called them Kilpatrick because of what St. Patrick was doing. He was trying to kill them. And when they came over here, they was telling the natives that St. Patrick was killing them, and they called them. They thought they was telling them that their name was Kilpatrick. It's funny you would. It's funny you would mention that. Kwame is what made me investigate that name from Detroit, and he was one of the chiefs that they shouldn't have been able to. He did that to himself, though. Yep, the tribes of Australia is a admixture of Inky and Anu's children on Earth. The family name Edwards. I haven't done the background on Edwards, but I did run across that in some paperwork before, but I didn't do the research to dig into the name. The 8-year-old should be learning, you should get an IQ reading program. By now she's starting to read. You want to get her into speed reading. Stop trying to teach her shit. The only thing you should be teaching her is speed reading, and let her read what she want out the library, right? And she will learn faster that way than you trying to force her to learn. At 8 years old, focus on teaching her to speed read and focus her on math. It's a math program called Mega Math that teaches math, accelerated math. There's one called Mega Reading that teaches accelerating reading. And then you got Mega Memory that teaches memory techniques. But all that stuff is old that I just named. There is expanded and updated versions of all three of those things under different names. The word back on the Three Kings is keep watching. No, I'm answering the questions in the comments, sweetie. I didn't get you this time, but I'm going to try to get you next time. Thanks, my man, Genres. R.G. Road Gang later today. We'll see. I thought I wish I'd seen him in there. All right, peeps. I know y'all like to hear me running my chats, but I'm getting tired now. So, we're gonna take some callers next time, hopefully. All of that mortgage shit is fraud. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all that shit is fraudulent. They are designed for you to never end up with property in the end. The whole system is designed that way. The tax system, you getting taxed so much, 80% of your money is going into taxes. Right? So we getting taxed into oblivion. So we gotta do away with that shit. So it's certain stuff that the government's supposed to be responsible for, and the maintenance of the government is responsibility of the collective families on the land. Figure it out after that. All right, peeps. Been good talking to y'all. Love, peace, soul, rock and roll, and hair grease and all that shit to my niece. Keep it up. Push the flip. And free Larry Hoover. The men need to be free just because it's the right thing to do. No other reason.